Welcome to you all, and thank you for attending today. I suppose some of you are in the middle of docking, are you? So it's probably quite a... Oh, tailing, sorry. I've got to be, I forgot, I'm in the South Island, I just remembered. Thanks, Leon. Hey, look, in any event, thanks for taking the time to come today. I'm sure it'll be very informative, and I don't want any of you to leave with unanswered questions. So there'll be lots of time for questions, so please don't go away thinking, oh God, if only I'd asked that. My name's Chris Kelly and I chair Beef and Lamb Genetics. A few quick administration things: health and safety, toilets through there. There's a safety kit under the bar, I understand. If there's a fire alarm or an earthquake, the point to all meet is just outside in the car park. Secondly, this session is going to be live screened, so we're going to need to use, all of us, when you ask questions, we're going to need to use the microphones, if you wouldn't mind. There's one here that you can throw around. There's another one here and one in my hand, so there'll be plenty of them, but we will need to use microphones, please. And finally, before we get on the road, just introduce a few people. The Beef and Lamb Genetics team, we've got Annie here, Graham over here. We've got David at the back here, Eleanor and Jackie. And finally introduce an ex-director of Beef and Lamb Genetics and a guy who's going to chair the meeting so he can be guaranteed we'll finish dead on 5:30, Leon Black. So thank you, Leon. I'll hand over to you, and the floor is yours.
Thanks, Chris. So we're going to start off with a single step from Graham, but the topics we're covering today... Yep. Yes. So session one, single step, the new meat module, nProve. We'll have a quick stand-up break. Beef and Lamb Genetics strategy, your views and questions, which we'll direct. If we get time, we'll go through the new wool module, progeny tests, and the DNA labs, and sire genotyping. If you have got something right now that you don't see on that list, can you please call it out, and we'll get Graham to put it up on the whiteboard and we will cover it off. So if there's something that you're thinking requires attention and is not already listed up there, please give me a call. No? All right. Thank you. All right, Graham, I guess on that basis, we'll kick off with you covering off single step. Thank you.
Radio. Real good. All right. Thanks very much, Leon, and thank you for taking your time out, and welcome to our meeting in Gore here. This is the fourth of our Roadshow meetings, and we've had about 30 breeders turn up to each of them, so it's been a pretty consistent. And the meetings have started off pretty quiet, but as they've gone on, discussions got going, and just in time for us to leave. But no, it's not like that. No, it's been very good, actually. Single step. I've got a few slides on single step. This is Beef and Lamb Genetics has finished its partnership program with Beef and Lamb New Zealand and the government, MB. And our number one objective was to develop a new information infrastructure, a new genetic evaluation system called Single Step. As you may be aware, internationally, the Single Step is becoming the standard technology that livestock evaluations around the world are using. For those that turned up at the Breeders' Forum, you would have seen Steve Miller from American Angus. They introduced it a year ago. The Australians introduced it for their terminal sires about a year ago. And others dairy, poultry, and pork are using single step now. So it's becoming the best technology for livestock breeders to make the best decisions to help the sheep and beef industry in New Zealand. Looking at what you have now with single step. Who has looked at their single step results? Hands up. Anyone? Yes, one. And so we've had 4 runs now of single step. And I think most of you would have found, if you looked at your results, animals would have gone up and some went down. Is that right, Andrew?
Yeah, and some stayed where they are.
And some stayed where they are. Okay, all right. And just recapping on what we talked about at the Breeders' Forum, single step gives a better comparison than EBVs or blending, and I've got a slide on that in a moment, across and within flock. And it also is better for animals that are genotyped and non-genotyped, and it's more accurate than pedigree alone. So you're getting the best breeding values and the more accurate breeding values than before. It's best use of all your information. Now with single step, there are no more recalibrations. Every 12 to 18 months, we'd do a recalibration with multi-step, and then from that day on, all new information that came in had to wait another 18 months, and then there was a big change again. So really, every week with single step, there is a minor calibration, so there won't be these big changes in breeding values in future with recalibrations. And all genotyped animals contribute to the calibration pool, whereas I think at the moment in our single step we're using 52,000 SNP-chipped animals, and they're all contributing to the calibration, whereas previously Michael said it was about 10,000 animals. So we've got a lot more information that's being used to calculate our breeding values in future with that. I've got 2 graphs here that actually Sharon McIntyre put together. On my left here is single step. The green are non-genotyped animals and the blue are genotyped animals. And as you would expect, animals with more information, there's more variation, so there's more, you get more accurate breeding values. And if you remember those who are at the forum, flocks that aren't genotyped and aren't closely linked to genotyped animals, pretty much this is a straight line. So on the bottom here we have our standard EBVs, and up here we have our single step. So, some animals here might be higher in the old system and lower with single step. What we've got over on this, I'll start again. Hold. On this here, the blue line is our multi-step, and there was a bit of bias with multi-step breeding values, because it's 3 calculations. You calculated a breeding value, the molecular breeding value, and you blended the 2 together. Now there is just 1 calculation, so you can better compare between genotyped animals in the blue dot and non-genotyped animals in the green dots. Okay, got one more slide. And finally, in the last few months since the forum, some of the things we've established, we've found that some of you might have found that some of the, I don't know if you've noticed, Julia, that some animals' pedigree errors have been corrected. While it's I think of the 100,000 animals that Jackie looked at, I think there was about 138 animals that had pedigree errors corrected. That may not sound much, but a lot of them were older sires, and if you change an older sire's pedigree, that can have an influence down through the pedigree line. And to rest assured, the system doesn't just automatically change the pedigree. It picks it up, and the team look at it before they change it. As I mentioned, the BVs are more accurate, but the accuracies are very conservative. They're just pedigree alone. They're just like your EBV accuracies. Why is that? The accuracies with single step would be higher than this, but currently there is, as Michael Lee has explained, there is no There's no standard system internationally for calculating accuracies in single step that we'd be confident in. So the accuracies you get with single step are the bottom, the most conservative accuracy. For some animals and some traits, they may be significantly higher, but you can see the difference in the breeding values. In terms of terminal sires, where BLG is going with single step, we've got sort of a phased program where BLG this month, next month, is taking over the Farm IQ terminal sire evaluation that's been currently done by AgResearch. Those involved in the Dunkragan progeny test will be aware of that. That's going to get delivered through the single step pipeline in the first instance, and then in 2019 BLG will be addressing other terminal sires and looking at that for meat quality traits. So that's a two-phased rollout.
Graham, how's that terminal sire used in the analysis now? Because it's used for purposes it's obviously not using genomics at the moment.
That's correct, because we only have genomics on Romney, Coopworth, Perrindale and Composite at the moment in single step. So that's a decision that the science team are looking at, whether it can be one, we can include it as in one evaluation, or whether there will need to be a genomic maternal evaluation and a genomic terminal evaluation. That's a decision they're still looking into at this stage. But in the meantime, we'll be running the results you get through whatever, I know it is the South Island calibration. Is it the South Island? The genomic calibration flock, those involved in Dunkragan, will be producing those results for those breeders. And that will be a separate evaluation at this stage, and whether it will be combined is to be looked at next year. Okay. Some animals with genotypes aren't included at the moment. So as I mentioned, we're using 52,000 genotypes. There are a number of animals in our genotype database that those genotypes aren't being using. I mean, some of the animals don't have pedigree, so they're commercial animals. The breed isn't sufficient at this stage. Some of the Texel breeders under multi-step, we were producing genomics for Texel breeders. The validation work for that hasn't been done, and that's looking to be addressed in early 2019 along with the Highlanders. So the goal is to roll out genomics for Texels and Highlanders early next year. And the genotype, you may have, doesn't impute, imputation accuracy isn't great enough. And I've talked about that in my last presentation, so I won't go into the details now on that. So, any questions, because that's really, it's single step is up and running, and it's good that most of you haven't even noticed that we just changed over a month ago, and it's life carries on. Yeah, thank you.
Graham, just a question. How much of the flock, the recorded flock, is currently able to be single-stepped? Every
Animal in SIL is, we're doing one run and we're using the whole, Cheryl Ann can answer how many we're using. Every animal in SIL goes through the single step evaluation, the whole 8 million animals. So if your animal is not genotyped, but it's closely related to a genotyped animal, that information will actually will change your breeding value slightly. Okay. So it does have some, the further you're away, the less impact it has. So if you share rams with someone who's doing a lot of genotyping, it will alter the breeding values of your animals, even if you're not genotyping. Yeah. So everything's going through single step. Takes about 36 hours to run, doesn't it, Jackie, over the weekend at the moment? Yeah. Joe? Okay. Oh, sorry. Throw the cube.
Do you know what the average accuracies are, like the increase in accuracy is, just based on multi-step to single step? Not like without, obviously genotypes aren't included?
No, I don't know. They, Cheryl Ann, I don't think we have a, what's the increase in accuracy been? It's hard to know, isn't it? Yeah, pass the mic.
From the multi-step, it varied from about 5 to 20%. Really depended on the trait and the amount of phenotype information you had for the different animals. So there's no easy answer, but it does give a significant increase in the accuracy.
Cool. So just between multi and single?
No,
Yep.
from EBVs to GBVs.
But without the genotype?
I haven't seen the figures on the single step, but from multi-step it'll be the same.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, I mean, Michael, some of the accuracies went up significantly in single step, but it wasn't like he felt, you know, the science team felt confidence because they couldn't validate that. Yeah, okay. Okay, thanks.
All right.
Oh, Julia. Okay.
Just a comment that perhaps a lot of the breeders in the room haven't noticed the difference yet because they haven't had reports yet, single step versus multi-step.
Okay.
So because at this time of the year or in this month there's really only been a little bit of birth data and a little bit of fleece weight data. So they're the ones who've had reports.
Yep.
And everyone else has not as yet. So watch this space.
They can ask for them?
They can, yeah, they can definitely ask for them. Yep.
They're available, they'll be available from their bureaus.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, if they wanted to ask.
Yeah, 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 okay. Okay. Cool. Thanks, Julie.
Hey, thanks,
Okay.
Graham.
Great job.
Okay, this one I'm really pleased to introduce. Annie, we have a new meat module. It was a few years in progress, and love to hear the report on it. Thanks, Annie.
Is that right, Dave? Other side, right, good. Get me sorted. Jack, you sit there, I'll put this in my own pocket. Okay, all right, oh yes, sultry tones. Okay, so have many of you looked at the meat module then? Have you seen some of the results coming out of the meat module? Looking at your own data. Any hands up? No? So look, we have had quite a few questions on this, so do feel free to voice them. But what I want to do is try to go through and explain what's happened in the meat module, and then we'll do those questions and sort of see what we should be doing next about it. Okay? If you can bear with me. So we certainly had to address the meat situation. It had been 30 years since we'd had a look at the parameters, so how to predict how much meat and how much fat was in that carcass. Was really based on these 1988 animals, and so we've definitely changed since then. Our carcass is much bigger, our loins are much bigger for the same carcass size. We've got more meat, and we've got a lot less fat in that same carcass. Okay, so we did need to have a look at this and sort of see how those predictions from the different measurements were going to predict well for our animals now. And it was also based on a Romney animal back in 1988. We've got a lot more animals, different types of breeds to be informing our meat module now. So I don't think there's too many arguments about that we needed to do it. Cool. So, but what are you going to see with this meat module change? What are the main things that are coming through? And we're seeing there's a primary effect that's going to be on an improved carcass weight. Now, does it surprise you if I tell you that the carcass weight has actually been reported through the growth module? So where it used to be, carcass weight was predicted by weaning weight, live weight 8, those weight measurements. And so it was predicting carcass weight with a certain accuracy. It was a bit low accuracy. But now we're measuring carcass weight either via scan or saleable meat or with ultrasound scanning. And so that accuracy of that carcass weight is a lot more, and it's still reporting through growth. So what we're seeing is it's affecting the growth module, the report you're getting out in growth. And the carcass weight that's in the meat module, now the meat module is just relying on the meat that's, the meatiness of the animal that's independent of that carcass weight. So it looks a little bit smaller. We'll go through that in a minute. The secondary effect is on improving these breeding values for meat and fat traits. We're getting more accurate genetic parameters. Heritability is correlation. So that was the big thing there, is that change in carcass weight. So in your New Zealand terminal worth, it's made up of growth, meat and survival. And so these changes are affecting both the growth module and the meat module in the New Zealand terminal worth. That's because TSG is wean weight plus carcass weight. And then of course we've got the meat measurements for lean in the loin, hindquarter and shoulder, and we've got a fatty or a fat yield bit in there as well. So of course it's affecting meat, but surprisingly for some it's also affecting growth. And we're thinking about when we're actually correcting for carcass weight, because the TSM is about the meat in the region is divided by carcass weight. So if carcass weight is gotten more accurate, and if it's actually becoming a bigger value, we're dividing by a bigger value, which means that the TSM can be becoming a bit smaller. So that's panning out. So we put these sorts of graphs up in front of you, and hopefully they'll start to make a bit of sense, but I'll talk through it slowly, okay? So if we think about a live weight old breeding value and how it was related to our carcass weight, so that there was a direct line here. Oh, it's quite good fun to draw that, yep. So that the live weight 8 was directly related to the carcass weight breeding value because it was used to predict it. Really tight correlation there. Now, the carcass weight old compared to the new is a little bit of difference here because this carcass weight is now being predicted from other meat measures like ultrasound, via scan, saleable meat, whereas this was predicted only by the weights. So you can see there's there's still a straight line, but it's much more wobbly, okay? A lot more change. If I think about, and have it with, I said it was going to change growth. So this is the growth of old meat, and this is the growth with the new meat. And there's a relationship there, it looks pretty good, but it's quite steep. So where the TSG used to be 1,000, it can now go up to about 1,200. So you're seeing a lift in the growth because of this extra accuracy in carcass weight. And this is the graph for the meat alone. You see it's much flatter. So where the TSM old was 400, it's now coming out to be around 200, so lower. So it's a bit of a shame. So you're seeing a couple of 100 cents going up on the growth index and a couple of 100 cents going down on the meat index, okay? All through this carcass weight accuracy. Now if you think about growth and meat together, as it is joined in the New Zealand terminal worth index, that the change isn't that dramatic, okay? So growth and meat together seems to make a bit of sense, but alone or separated, the meat does seem to be quite a bit lower than you might have been familiar with. And again, that's the New Zealand maternal terminal worth with the old down here and the new up here. So where it was 1,000 points before, going up, it's just a little bit lifted, but closer, much more closer to that 1,000 points there, okay? Because you've got meat and growth together. Make sense? I've got some numbers there, but I'll come back to that if we need to go there. I want to go through and just to have a look at maternal worth before doing those numbers. So would it surprise you, I've just talked about how carcass weight accuracy has gone up. It's affecting growth in the terminal sire. Would it surprise you if it's in the growth of maternal? No, so it shouldn't. So yes, because the growth index here is also predicted by wean weight maternal, and carcass weight going in here, that it's actually affecting growth in the New Zealand maternal worth as well. So how does that look? Again, maternal worth old versus new. If it's about 2,000 here, it's just lifting probably by a couple of 100 cents in the New Zealand maternal worth. So if you had a look at your, using the single step in the revised meat module today, you'd probably see a couple of 100 cents on average up in your animals. Some will have gone up, some would have gone down. Because there's a more accurate carcass weight breeding value, it means that, you know, you go up and down, but overall they went up. I think they did, yeah. Yeah. If you think about maternal worth plus meat, so if you're reporting that in your sale, then again, there is some change, but it seems to be pretty logical. A little bit up and down with extra carcass weight accuracy, but what used to be 2,000 is kind of close to 2,000, so nothing too scary there. Now, just thinking about growth then alone, if you look at that sub-index of growth for the dual purpose, here we go again, it's steeper. There's a little bit of change. This is old here and revised here. So I'll do the 2000 again. So 2000 goes up, and it's a little bit higher, okay? Maybe a couple of 100 cents. Again, the meat looks very flat. So what used to be 500 cents in the old meat is now down probably closer to 200 cents in the new meat, okay? So it looks a little bit weird, but it's exactly for those reasons we just discussed. And again, if you consider them both together with growth in meat, the old versus the new, it's a fairly, what we would expect is a pretty good relationship. So in summary, the greater change is due to the carcass weight breeding value. There's some variations meant that it's moved from meat, the fat breeding values and carcass weight breeding values. Individual meat and fat yield breeding values may change considerably, but they must be considered within the carcass weight breeding value. And the rankings are similar between the old and the revised. So the animals that were good are still good, and the animals that were poor were still poor. And it's those ones in the middle that have had the most change. And obviously that meat one, it can be a lot more variation in there. And the new values are more accurate, and that's the big underlining thing we wanted to put in, that the new revised meat module is more accurate. But I want to hear some of your feedback on this. So I'm just going to leave this slide up for now, and just to let you know that we did realise it was a transition phase. It was a big change coming, and it was coming at a time that you're sensitive to ram selling. So we wanted to provide you an opportunity to, sell on the index you've been selecting your rams to date on, and also to select the rams that you want to keep as your own breeders for next year on the new system. So definitely have a look at how that's changed, because I expect you'll find some changes. And our ram finder and percentile bands are supporting the old meat module and the multi-step versions until the 20th of December. Okay, so yeah, how do you feel about that? Can you give me a bit of feedback on what you think about the new meat module and what it might be? Does it sound like the right thing? First of all. Question over here. Go. I'll give you the box.
Two questions. The first one is, if you're not putting animals through the virus scan, where are you getting this information from? Well, that's the first question. That's the second question while I'm here.
Yeah, cool.
The second question is...
Should I answer one first, or should I?
No, I'll tell the second one now while I can remember it.
I'll remember your one.
The second one is that when you're in the maternal worth, you've changed to growth. Now, what does that do to the BV for adult weight? So I presume that it's going to penalise that greater.
No, nothing. It doesn't affect that. The carcass weight was already in growth. It was always valued at 467 cents in growth. It's just now that we've got a more accurate breeding value, so it's more confident about being away from the middle. So it's more confident about being higher or lower, so seeing more spread, but it's not affecting anything else in that growth module. The same economic values are applied. So yeah. Now back to the first question, to see if I got that right, because I've nearly forgotten. Oh, yes. So we are measuring, if you participate in a progeny test, you've got animals being measured, the progeny are being via scanned or saleable meat with the PML system, or ultrasound scanned in there, and that's affecting the carcass weight prediction. Whereas before we did this revised meat module, it was the carcass weight was being predicted from live weights alone, because there wasn't enough of those other meat measures to really make it accurate. Oh, and CT scanning is also affecting it. Yep, is that right? So if you are not using any meat measure like ultrasound or via scan or saleable meat or CT scanning, then your carcass weight will only be predicted by the live weights. And so it will be at that lower accuracy, so it won't see a lot of change in this new system. Oh, good question. So Graham's saying, what if you are connected to a flock that's participating in a progeny test site? I would see that you would have a little bit of change based on what they're doing compared to you. But if you're not measuring it, you're going to see carcass weight breeding values that you're probably used to, and probably not a lot of change. However, your people you compare to may change a lot. Yeah. Yep, I'll just get the wee microphone for you too, sorry. It might be simple, I could always repeat it if you want to be really quick. It's always worth waiting for.
How many animals do you need to measure via scan or these other methods?
Right, so with the rule of thumb with the ultrasound method, I believe it's 20 to 25. Anne is my my accurate person in the back here, and she'll nod if I'm on track or not.
That'll be per sire.
Per sire, yeah. And with the via scan stuff, it's a similar accuracy, is it? Or a little bit more? A little bit more? A little bit more?
So the connectedness we use the 20, you're correct.
Yeah.
For information to contribute to breeding values, as few as 3 to 5 progeny will give you.
I'll give you something. It's almost equivalent to measuring the ram himself, isn't it? And the more animals you measure, the more accuracy you get. But for connectedness, you need 20 per sire. And for starting to get some benefit from the measurement, at least above 5 per sire. Okay.
Annie, I'll jump in with two questions. Yes. Firstly, maternal growth used to have an impact on reproduction. If you're lifting the growth subset index, is it going to alter reproduction in your maternal phase?
I don't believe so. Are we still predicting NLB from growth, Shirley? I guess I'm lucky she turned up today, isn't it? Thanks, Rosie. Shirley has been very much part of this meat module of helping make it implement into our system, and she is our SIL expert.
So because we haven't changed...
Oh, sorry, Shirley. It is the people on the microphone still that need to hear you. And you do, yeah. Lovely and clear. Thank you. It's worth hearing you.
I think, Annie, you were correct before when you said we haven't changed the way we're calculating the growth breeding values. So that won't have any impact through that at all.
Right, because it would have been wean weight and live weight 8 that would be affecting reproduction. We're not changing that. It's only carcass weight that's changing, so it's bundled up into the growth module. Cool? Does that make sense? Cool.
A lot of guys are focused on meat yields.
Yes.
And it looks like, as a sub-index, the meat index is a lot lower.
Yeah.
What's your advice to this year's ram crop guys who have selected on higher meat subset indexes, and then they've suddenly lost 200 cents?
Yeah, wait. Look, to be honest, we've had a lot of pushback on this, and we're saying, is it intuitive? And I think you're probably saying it's not intuitive. If you're measuring meat and you're seeing growth go up and your meat go down, and that's exactly what we're sort of saying. And if we're going to have to keep standing up in front of people trying to explain where it is, that's not going to be great either. So one of the solutions that we've come up with, I think it's okay to describe it, isn't it? Yeah, that so that the science team have had a thought that perhaps we can stick to growth, so that the carcass weight that's been predicted from the growth measurements as wean weight, live weight 8 and such, if that stays in growth, and then the extra bit of carcass weight that's been predicted from ultrasound or via scan or the other meat measures, CT scanning, that goes into the meat module, and that would be numbers you're more familiar with. So it would take a bit of tweaking in the background, a bit of work there, but that would be a little bit more intuitive, and I guess I'm throwing it to you guys. What do you think about that? Would you be strongly in favour of that, or you don't mind either way? Yes, Russell? I'm going to have to ask you to either catch the box or... yeah. I knew he could. I knew he'd be good at netball. Excellent.
Yeah, no, so from that, I see what you're doing with that you can continue on to sell because that's what you've selected on. Can we have both?
Yes. So you can have a look at both? Yep.
So, yeah, and that way we can do our selection.
We can't offer you RAM Finder and all the percentile bands that go with the new stuff. We can only support one at a time, one version of the truth, I guess. So you can look at your new single step and meat module figures, and get a download from your bureau and sort of see how your RAMs are looking by those that evaluation. But we're supporting the RAM Finder and percentile bands that are on our website are staying with the multi-step and the old meat module until the 20th of December. Does that make sense?
So my individual RAMs I can do a selection.
Yes.
Or selling done on both.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's
what we wanted to help you with that transition. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
So does that ultimately mean that growth is more important relative to meat in terms of the gains that we can make, or it's sort of giving a more accurate picture of what's going on?
Maybe I can explain it this way. So what I was told about why carcass weight is in growth in the original, because it always was, but the reason why it's in there is because you don't really get paid for live weight alone. You actually only get an economic value for the carcass weight that live weight is predicting. And so I guess it predicted a dressing out percentage of about, 43% or something like that. So that's why carcass weight was always in growth, to apply some monetary value to the growth index. But now we're adding meat measures into it, and that's becoming more accurate. It probably still is the right thing to put it in there, but it's not intuitive because you're thinking you're wanting to get a more meaty animal, which may be more carcassy animal for the amount of live weight that's there. So that's the debate. So the science thought it was still the right thing to report that carcass weight into growth because it's always been there. But with the feedback about how intuitive it is for your clients to understand that you'll be measuring meat and it's increased your growth and flattened your meat out, it didn't seem to make a bit of logical sense there. So that's where the choice is.
But what you're saying is that the meat's actually dropped, so the value of meat's not as much as what we thought it was.
Yeah, so the fleshiness above carcass weight wasn't maybe as much as what you thought it was. But we're thinking about calling it two names now, Graham, isn't it? It's one of the things we rallied around. Like, there might be carcass weight predicted by growth and carcass weight predicted by meat, and that might make a bit more sense of this. And I still have to work through with the science team about that, but yeah. Because you would interpret the way we've done it, it would say that growth's more important than meat by the way we're doing it, eh? Yeah, and that's not really what we want to encourage. I think we actually want to talk about making a meaty animal. So I think you've got to vote for the adjustment system. Is that right, Andrew?
So the value's still going to be the same. You're just tweaking the meat rather than increasing meat and reducing the growth. Yeah, the carcass weight, carcass weight, good or bad, that was going into growth will just stay in meat, and so you'll be good and bad in meat. But it'll be more intuitive, I think. We can come back to this at Q&A time if people want some time to think about the question.
So Annie, just in summary.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the way it's worked now in the meat module will give our clients who sell the carcass the greatest accuracy to get a better carcass value payment to our industry.
Yes, so the New Zealand terminal worth will have all that, the value is going to be more accurate. It's whether or not you're relying more on the sub-index of meat or growth.
So, but combined, this is the best step forward, and it's more accurate than 30 years ago. And a big step forward for our 30 years, Right, so bottom line, it's a hell of an improvement. Yes. It's just how we sell or market our own minds. How intuitive it is to be able to report it in this one or that one. Right. Okay. Did you want me to go through any numbers in the equation part? Because I can.
Surely I can understand it, because surely what you're saying is select the growth, select the growth. But basically you can select the growth and basically you've got no meat on it.
Yeah. So you can have a bony, lanky animal that has a big gut and not much carcass.
That's what we had in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, don't want that, eh?
We're turning the clock backwards.
No, so I don't want to turn the clock backwards. That's where we've got meat in the system. But the meat now is measuring carcass weight in a real carcass weight situation, not just a predicted from live weight situation. It's more accurate, so it's bigger, it's having a bigger effect. Yes, if you're going to have a lanky animal that's not very good for carcass weight or meatiness, it's going to be very low on meat yield and not so good on growth. Make sense?
Under the new module, you've got more meat calculations in that growth ledger, right? Yep. So it's not giving you a lankier or a gut-full animal, it's just actually telling you what sort of carcass total you'll end up. But you've actually got it hanging on the growth stats. Yes. Where we're used to as an industry seeing improving meat yields. Yes. Right. And some of that meat yield that we've actually thought it was fleshiness was actually a bit of extra carcass weight for the live weight that we had. Yeah. So by pushing for growth under the current selection, you won't just get 4x2s on legs, because none of us want to do that. No. Yeah. Right. We're with you. Yeah. Okay. But we may need to rethink how you package that, because we've been running a different thought pattern for the last 20 years. Yeah. And I think it's got to be intuitive for you and intuitive for your clients to be selecting the right animals. So it sounds to me like we should make this change, but we'll go back and have a look. Okay. We've got another 3 minutes. Do you want to put a number up just really quickly? You've got 3 minutes. I'll just see if this makes sense. We'll just go back to that equation to see if it helps anybody get it into their heads a wee bit. So it was just an example of this. This is a real life example. It was one that Sharon had pulled off, and how do we look just to sort of see if people can get their head around where the growth or where the changes are happening. So he used to have a terminal worth of 1,305. Survival, I can use this pointer, can't I? Sorry, Dave. The pointer, so his survival hasn't changed because none of the parameters have affected survival. But growth has again gone up, and meat also went up in this example. No, meat was higher here and went down, and growth was lower here and went up. Okay.
So that's examples of what you're seeing, and if you have a look at your rams, you might see some of the same behaviour. Now, what people were, up at Masterton, we had an example of a ram that was the top 5% for meat before, and it went to the bottom 5% for meat because most of his value was actually in carcass weight. So that was a very a non-intuitive change, and I'd like to hear from you. I'd love you guys to feed that back to us too, because it gives us a mandate that we should make the change if it's not right. But we're trying to do our testing as well. But yeah. Yeah. Cheers, Julia.
Annie, if that change is made, when will it be made? Because we're in the middle of ram marketing in the next few months. So
before the 20th of December, eh?
Yeah, that would be great.
I think sooner than later, but I'm looking to Cheryl Ann because we've been really hard on her this year about how much she's got to do. Not just her, but also Neville and Michael Lee. So, I mean, 2 or 3 weeks as a minimum, we're going to have a look at this before we could really say. But 20th of December, we would not want to know the right one. And yeah, that's what your mandate is too, isn't it, Graham? You're happy with that? Yeah. So soon. We're going to make this, and I think it'll be basically a message coming out at the end of this forum.
If you have any doubts about it, the combined terminal worth sums it up without breaking it down, though, right?
Yep. Yep.
So if you don't want to get confused, just use the single number and don't break the subsets out.
Yes, that's right. Yep. And it's gone up because you've got better accuracy in the growth, in the carcass weight, sorry.
Awesome. Thanks, Annie. Hey, we
Cheers,
might
guys.
continue some of that on your views and questions sessions, and
just
might take a vote on whether you want to break that back down a bit. Thanks, Annie.
Thank you, guys.
Well, this is really cool. David's coming up to talk about nProve. I met David's mum in Invercargill last winter. She's really lovely, despite David. His mum is really, really lovely. So that was good.
Yeah, I know. It usually ends with a punchline, doesn't it? Yeah. All right. Let's see again here. Okay, cool. All right. So my name's David Campbell. I'm the IT Program Manager. Just wanted to give you a real quick update on the nProve project. I'll just keep it really brief in terms of why the project exists, but it really centres around the modern demands for more empowerment, being able to get your hands on your information, and also not just at the computer, but also when you're out in the field. In terms of the nProve name and brand, so we've obviously got the existing SIL name, very well known, but we really were looking at a new development. We needed to build a new set of tools alongside the existing SIL tools, so it was important that we were able to differentiate between the systems that we're replacing and the new systems that are coming in. And we also wanted a name that was not going to have sort of any favoritism towards recording or genomics, and also across different species, as there's other species in the system now as well, and something unique and searchable as well. So the name that our marketing gurus came up with in the end was nProve. We've collected a lot of feedback from everybody. Everyone sort of interprets this either as a greater than sign or an arrow moving forward, depending on which way your brain's wired. We're okay with either of those. And there's a wee sort of subtle hint here with the physical animal there, which is really around the point that nProve is about the numbers behind the animal that you see, but there's still an animal standing in front of you, the key role of the breeder, ensuring that animal's free of faults, that relationship with the commercial farmer to make sure that the animal's going to be fit for purpose. So it's not one or the other, it's really those two things need to be alongside each other. So where possible and where the brand's being used in a larger display setting, we're going to try and put a picture of an actual animal beside it. In terms of the nProve name and sort of how it works alongside SIL, so we've got at the moment we've got the SIL brand here being looked after by BLG underneath beef and lamb, and then we've got the different species or evaluations sitting underneath it, and then we've got all the finder apps that sit underneath that on the sheep side. We're looking at standing up the nProve alongside the existing SIL system. So while we keep the lights on with the existing systems, we're working with the technical and development teams who are beavering away to build out the new nProve tools, which I'm keen to take you through in a second. But these two systems need to coexist, because while we're building up the nProve tools, until they reach the point of maturity, we've got to make sure that the existing cell systems are still accessible so we can keep the industry moving forward. But once nProve does reach that point where its functionality is at a level that we require, the plan at that time is to retire the cell systems and just be left with nProve moving forward. So I guess the key point there is there will be a transition phase where we have both cell and nProve, but once we've got the new systems to the point that they need to be, we'll retire the cell systems and we'll just be left with nProve moving forward. So just a real quick overview of the strategy that we're pursuing in terms of how we're putting that together. In terms of the different systems that we look after, there's a bunch of them. Sort of behind the curtain there's the databases and servers that drive everything, and then there's all the things that we surface out to industry that you get to use. There's the cell website, which we've just updated, and we got some pretty positive feedback on that. But then that really leaves the rest of these tools, a wide range of technologies, servicing a really wide range of people that need to use those tools. But some of the technologies that we've got here are getting pretty old in the tooth and becoming difficult and expensive to maintain, and also just the sheer number of these things that we need to maintain. So the plan is to replace all of those with the new nProve tool that we're working on. These tools, we've got a really good team here, and many of you've heard from here today that are, know these systems inside out. It's pretty tempting to get those people together and go ahead and start building the new generation of tools and nProve, but we know better than that. And so before doing that, we've set about engaging with you in workshops. So before we built out the first screen, we sent out an email to all cell breeders looking for breeders that were interested in attending a workshop. We got a really positive response, and we would basically send out a note with different times that were available, and people could respond when it worked for them. The sessions were typically about an hour. We usually tried to keep them to that, and then depending on the time of day, whether it was early morning or working day or after hours, we would then get people together in groups, typically no more than about half a dozen, and send a link out. You could jump on through your computer. You could see us, any of the content we're presenting like today, and we could see everyone on the other end. It was really important to get a good range of people with different skill sets on those calls. A project like this will often attract the more technology-focused people, but we worked hard to get those that maybe didn't have such a happy relationship with their home computer involved in those calls, and that was really, really valuable in terms of making sure that this thing was going to make sense to normal people that are going to be using it. We got a lot of fresh ideas, and it changed the design of the system quite dramatically. How the workshops work basically is early on, I'll apologise ahead of time for my lack of artistry on screen, but we have the ability in the early workshops, as people are talking, to sort of sketch out ideas as you're explaining something, make sure that we're on the right page, and you can see that occurring live. We then would leave you alone, leave you in peace, and go away and work with our development team based at Rosea and start building mocks. And these mocks, they're all smoke and mirrors, really just designed to give you a feel of how it would work, what it might look like if we were to actually build the system out. But they don't exist. I mean, it's just make-believe, it's just a mock. And so the great thing here is that we can bring back those ideas from the early workshop, throw them around. Often when you actually see a vision of how it might work and what it might look like, that stirs other ideas from other people that are in the workshops. And we basically do that, we refine that mock until we get to the point where we've got something that seems to be making sense to everybody in the workshops, and that's when we'll go away and actually build something out. So what I want to do is, just before the demo. So look, if that sounds interesting and you'd like to take part in a workshop, I think Eleanor's got a clipboard and she's taking names and numbers. So And chocolates. Okay, cool. Feel free to let us know that you're keen to join, and we'll put you on the list and include you on the invites when we've got workshops coming up. So what I'm quite keen to do is actually just give you a demo of nProve. So this version of the software is just fresh out of the oven. What we might do, maybe, Annie, do you want to grab the mic? And what we could do is, this is the view screen. You can see some views that we've created as we've been playing in some of the previous workshops. But I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to create a new view. And a view is basically, at the moment, is a view of your animals. So here you can see for this demonstration flock, all the animal tags are there. But we'll work with Annie to actually put a bit of criteria here over on the left-hand side where we can restrict down what animals we want to see. And we can also choose what columns of information we want to add. So
I'm actually going to ask the room a wee bit too, Dave, if that's all right.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
So and just so you know, that we've used the Progeny test flock, so it's no particular breeder's flock here, but it is real data that we play with from the Invame site. So if you're going to go out there and do a bit of a selection list, we're going to be, because it's the Progeny test site, it'll have to be females, right?
Dams,
Sorry, all the males got a bit killed. So if you're going out for a dam selection list, what criteria do you think we should put on there? Where should we start? What do you think about putting a bit of New Zealand maternal worth on there, Dave? Okay, so if we wanted to put New Zealand maternal worth on and you have a criteria, so we can have some sliders, I'm going to go add criteria. I'm going to go into the indexes and I'll select maternal worth and I'm going to add that to the criteria. You'll see two things happen. I don't know why the maternal worth... Oh, where did it go, Dave?
I don't know.
Fun. Did we rank it on the highest to lowest?
No, it should definitely be there. I'm not sure. One second, I'll sort it. Descending.
It's live. It's live.
Yeah. Just
never work with animals, children, or data live.
Here we go. Not sure what that
must be some without values for some reason.
Okay.
In there, yeah.
So you'll see that added NZ maternal worth in as a column, but it's also given us this wee slider over here. We can put a criteria on it.
Yeah, let's say if you want to do your dam selection list and you want to go above halfway, maybe you can slide it up a bit to about midway there, or type in a number, could you?
Yep, so down in the bottom, tiny little squinty print. You can see here we've currently got 25,000 animals.
You're going to make that bigger in the final one, eh?
Yeah, definitely, it'll be a lot bigger. So I'll just move that up for now to like 2,500. And so now if I refresh that, you'll see it's going to apply that criteria. We're now down to 366 animals.
Yeah, so if we're trying to design this selection list to be a certain size, we're going to get it at best 200 ewes for whatever we're going to do. What about anything else? What other criteria? You guys do this all the time. What else would you put in there? Age of dam? Can you do that, Dave?
Yep. So we could just add that information as a column if we wanted. So go add column, get animal, and we'll go. Where is it? AOD.
Yep. So the age of the dam, whether it's a hogget, two-tooth.
Okay. And so you'll see that information's there. Or I could have gone add criteria. If we wanted to do a limit it by age of dam, we could have added it over here as well.
Oh, cool. What else? So what else doing a dam list? Number of lambs born. Can we do that, Dave?
NLB, so that's index.
So this is about breeding value, or you mean about the actual string? Can you do the actuals yet, Dave? Because we've come this up before.
No, we haven't implemented the actuals yet, but we can put the BV up, but that will be there in a future version.
Yeah, so it's a good question, Kerry, thank you. But pardon? When? Weaned. It'll be the same situation, Russell. It's real data, so we haven't quite got that. But we will do in the final rollout. It's cool to know it's important, though.
Yeah, we're working on the...
So we've got breeding values and indexes and things like ages and genders and things like that. Got adult weight?
So is that one of the indexes?
If we put it as a DPA?
DPA, yep. Which one's that one?
Maternal score, you're thinking about... what are you thinking about maternal score, by the way? Oh, that's another thing for lambing, right? Yeah, so it's a trait again, so it's a raw data thing. So it will be on the list of things that we will do one day. One day is in some months down the track, but just thinking about breeding values.
The dev team is scheduled to be working on that late this year. So it's
late this year.
Yeah.
Perfect. So within the mock we've got right now, we could do
I'll just throw some other columns on for now. Like I'll throw status,
Yeah.
birth year, sex, and say EID if there's any.
You've got rear rank there.
Rear rank, I'll put that on. So hopefully you sort of get the, I mean, unfortunately the traits, we don't have those in there yet, the recorded traits, but the idea is that you can develop out the criteria that you want to limit the animals by on the left. You can choose whatever columns you want to put in here over on the right. You can then save this view. So this is, I'll go save as, and I'll call it, I'll put it in here, and I'll call it,
we're in Gore.
Gore, dam list, if I could spell.
So, I mean, obviously we're just demonstrating dams right now, but you do this with a sire list or other things that you want to do.
So now that I've saved that view, at any time you can just maintain all the views yourself. You'll see here's our Gore dam list. I can go in there, I'll see all the same information. It'll apply the criteria based on the latest single-step evaluation run. And for any of the views that you've created, so you can maintain them in here, get access to them. It also means that as long as you've got coverage, you can log on your mobile or on a tablet. You get access to the same information. We're still looking at what the story is in terms of how much information we can hold offline. So maybe a way of saving some of this onto your phone so that when you don't have coverage or you're out of Wi-Fi range to get you access to that. We're still working through that. But also once you've got, you've created your view and you've decided what information you want to have access to, you can also come in here, export it, and I can dump that data straight into Excel. And so that will give me an Excel file, not a CSV file, so you're not going to have to deal with those headaches around tags being interpreted as dates and leading zeros being dropped and all sorts of things like that.
Won't that be fun, Julia?
You'll see here that I'll zoom that up so you can read it a little easier. But all of that information then is available if you wanted to do some more work on that on your own computer in Excel as well. You can download that. Oh, sorry. That's a really good point. Actually, let's take the observation that this dam list has got a lot of males. So if it was a dam list, we'd go in here, add to the criteria, say that we want to add sex to the criteria, and you'll see now over on the left we've now got the ability to filter this down to just females. And if I now reload, you'll see the count go down from 366 to 208, and I'll save that, and so now it actually is a dam selection list.
Right, Andrew?
Oh yeah, another great point. So there's culled animals in there. So the new version of the software will actually automatically, when you create a new view, only show active animals. But if you will be able to override it. But in this example, if we wanted to only have active animals, we'd add status to the criteria. And so again, you can sort of see we're trying to make it, you can just build it into whatever you're looking for. Now you'll see we've got status here. I can go and say, look, I only want to see those alive animals. And so now we'll go from 208 down to 97. So that's now we're only looking at the active animals. But for others, sometimes they do want to go back and look at culled, so we'll make sure you maintain that capability.
What are some of the future things? Summary and then drilling down.
Definitely, yep. Okay, cool. So just Graham's point there about what we're working on at the moment. So that's the version that's about to go out. That'll be going out to all breeders that have been involved in the workshops, and then later this year or early next year, we'll be looking to make that more broadly available. And that will be for your own flocks. And then in terms of the new functionality that's being worked on, what you were seeing there was really about animal lists. Now we're looking at, well, okay, what if you want to look at your information at a high level, maybe summarising by mob, by year of birth, or other things like that. How do we enable you to summarise that data up at a high level? We've just finished a series of workshops on that. The design actually changed quite dramatically based on the feedback in those workshops. I think the earlier version, to put it politely, was probably trying to be a little too clever, and we really did changed that a lot based directly on the feedback from the breeders, and I think we've got something now that's looking quite good. So we're developing that at the moment, so it's some of the new functionality that'll be coming through later this year, early next year. Yes, so great point. So to be able to group by sire, yes, yep. So yep, and that's exactly what we were looking at, those types of things.
David, a couple of questions before we close up. When's the sort of go live for the whole industry date due on this?
I guess it's a bit of an incremental thing. So we didn't want to go away beaver eye until we thought everything was perfect, deliver it and then get the feedback. So we're trying to do it quite incrementally. So that functionality you're looking at now, we want to get that out into your hands later this year, early next year. There'll be the new functionality to summarise or summarised by sire, all those sorts of summaries. That'll come out shortly after that. We'll be then working on some of the screens for industry access to replace the flock finder and ram finder type systems, and then so it's sort of very incremental. So basically, we want to get this first round of functionality into your hands later this year, early next year, and keep adding to it.
4 or 5 releases by July next year. Is that
Yeah, we're trying to get a release, an update out hopefully every 2.5 months, something like that. Yep.
Is it compatible with phones, or you got to have a laptop, iPad? What's the level of tech you need? And do you need a teenager to stand beside you all the time?
Yeah, great question. So right from the very beginning, in fact, you saw in those mocks before, we've been designing it with mobile devices and tablets in mind. So, I mean, obviously you can't fit as much on a mobile device, as some functionality does disappear, but, you know, you can still create a view, you know, like we were just doing maybe on the computer, but then pull it out on the phone, quickly tap on that view, get your hands on the information. And in terms of the teenager question, I mean, that was really why we were pushing so hard to get not just the technically advanced involved, and we've had some pretty honest and really valuable feedback from the people on the workshop. So I'm hoping that a teenager won't be required to stand beside. But I mean, you know, even with this early version, we've already had some feedback. You know, there's some other things in what you saw that we know we still need to tidy up. So we'll keep working on that.
Yeah, thanks, David. Hey.
What does the N and nProve stand for? So we really needed something unique, something that we could trademark, something that was searchable. The nProve was really a play on the word improve, you know, about progression. M would have been good, but it wasn't protectable. Improve, spelt with an M, had already been used in a few places. N was used, so N was a more protectable, more unique fallback option, and it also, the N is often used, you know, when in science, when we're talking about numbers of animals or statistics and data sets, N is often used. So that was sort of the thinking in terms of how that was settled on.
For the old, yeah.
Yeah.
For the old school, you can just think of as improvement. All right. Hey, listen.
Just one final point too. Like, one of the things that, in looking at this, is, you know, that we've heard loud and clear, this isn't for everybody. A lot of breeders have told us loud and clear that they still want a full service option. We understand, we agree completely. We want to retain that capability that we've got in the bureau layer. With nProve, it doesn't remove that need for expert support, doesn't remove the need for all the problem solving that goes on. We still need those guardians around the integrity evaluation. But also, we've been looking at, you know, the skill set of the bureaus and how we can actually incorporate that into nProve, and we'll be working through that with the bureaus. But in terms of some of the things that you saw today, there's also ways in which your bureau can actually assist you in, for example, in setting up a view for something that you might like. Sorry.
Andrew.
So that red going forward developed it and
Great question. So the RAM sale tool, so that was something developed in Excel, really, where you could dump in a whole bunch of animal information or BVs, hook it up to EID, scan animals, and really integrate presenting breeding values and other related information as an integral part of the RAM sale process. working to get that out to more breeders to use at the moment. The discussion has definitely occurred that you saw in there that you could just go in and download that information as a spreadsheet. Man, wouldn't it be cool if we could somehow bundle in the fact that Ramsale tool is sort of somehow sitting in behind. At the moment, it's not integrated. You would need to go into nProve, set up a view for the information you want in a Ramsale, download that, copy and paste it into the Ramsale tool. So there would be an extra step at the moment. So for the Ramsale tool, you can email us at BLG. Jackie is taking names and numbers, and I think Barbara Beckett is the bureau that put her hand up to support that, who can send out the information and set anyone up that's after that. We've knocked a few of the bugs out of it. We just as it was tested, we got a bit of feedback on some issues, so it's just a bit more reliable. But in terms of major functionality, it's probably pretty similar to what you last saw.
Thanks, David. Hey, we'll just stand up, take 2 minutes, if you wouldn't mind, team, and then we'll have Chris in. And while you're standing up, have a wee think whether you want that meat sub-index broken back, and we'll take a wee vote on that in your views session. Done. All right, folks. So now we'll get an outline from the big boss as to the strategy for beef and lamb genetics going forward. I got to say, after working with this seller for a number of years, I'm pretty interested in his new strategy as well. Because you see what they've decided to change since I left the camp.
Not a lot, not a lot.
Everything I said exactly. Okay, Chris, welcome in and give us where we're heading.
Thanks, Leon. I won't take too much time, guys, but I'll just lift us up to what beef and lamb genetics is about, and importantly, what we're not about. So we had been funded up until the end of October by a combination of MB funding, 15 million over 5 years, and beef and lamb funding, 15 million over 5 years. The MB funding has now stopped, and beef and lamb have committed to continue us in a slightly altered form. So you can be guaranteed that we'll be around for a while yet, and this is really what we're about. So we're about national breeding objectives, not regional, but national, for traits of economic value for sheep and beef. And from at least a theoretical genetics perspective, if you can't put a value, a dollar value on what you're breeding for, in theory you shouldn't be breeding for it, because otherwise why bother? So we make sure that we can try and put a dollar value on. NLB is very easy, of course, because more lambs get you more money, and that's very easy. But some of these other post-farm gate traits are getting a little bit more difficult, and there's a bit of a grey area. And we can talk a little bit about what we want as breeders, but what we're not getting paid for as processors at the stage, and whether we can do something about that. So that's an issue we can talk about. And we're about national breeding objectives, not regional. We believe we hold the stewardship of genetic infrastructure to run a world-class, and we are the first, as I understand it, Graham, the first country in the world to run a single-step evaluation for sheep, which is multi-species. So we're right up there, leading the edge, apart from poultry and pigs and those sorts of people who are a bit ahead of us. But in terms of sheep and beef, we've got a world-class facility right now. We're independent, and we want to remain so. So we're the independent source of best practice genetic information, and support breeding schemes that encourage production and dissemination of higher genetic merit sheep, such as the CPT and next generation flocks. And I use the term for these 4 objectives as, I call it market failure. And what I mean by that is that if we were to ask the market to fund us for all of this work, it's likely it wouldn't go ahead. So our budget for next year in total is about 3 million odd, 3.5 million. If we asked you to pay for all that amount of money, it's likely you'd say, you know, this is an issue that for the future, and I'm not sure I can get the value out of it. So most breeding schemes around the world, where they're national, and I include dairy in that, and places like Ireland and North America and what have you, have an element of market failure. Therefore, they are funded by some form of levy body, and in our case, it's beef and lamb. So that's the purpose of it. That's the reason behind it. And we will leverage our genetic infrastructure for commercial services, such as we do runs for deer. We're looking at doing work on sheep milking and 1 or 2 others. But that is a commercial activity. It's not our core business. We're simply using our infrastructure, and these will be funded by the users and, importantly, by the beneficiaries. So the beneficiaries of the sheep milking people are obviously the people who use sheep milking, and they should pay for it on a 100% user pays basis, and similarly deer, which of course aren't subject to a levy fund from at least beef and lamb. So that's what we're about, Leon. It's probably not changed a lot since you were there. Happy to answer any questions for any of you. But that's really what we're going to be focusing on the next wee while, and that's us.
So has the reduced funding been an issue?
It's always an issue when you reduce funding, but the short answer is a lot of that funding has been used to lift up what is used to be SIL into now nProve and single step. So we've spent that money, it's done, and the maintenance will be a lot less. So it is a bit of an issue, but we reckon we can still maintain all those activities to benefit you and keep them running and keep them world class under the existing funding. And I have to acknowledge Beef and Lamb at this stage. They've been very supportive of us. They could have closed the door on us potentially, but they certainly didn't. And I think there'd be some appetite if we wanted to go back to them for more later on if we had any specific projects. So yeah, it's been an issue, but we'll get there.
How long is Beef and Lamb committed to?
As long as they're funded by levies, so every 5 years, you guys are going to have to decide whether you want Beef and Lamb round or not. And if you don't, well then you close the door on us too. But one would assume that they'll be around for a while yet. Okay.
Questions for Chris? Chris, you've got a new constitution coming up. What's the major change there?
Thank you.
We can't have the lights of you on the board anymore. Fix that. Yeah.
All right.
We'll answer that.
Will you answer that?
Yeah, we will answer that.
Yeah.
Main change for the Constitution.
Yeah.
Sorry?
The main change for the Constitution is
I didn't. You wanted me to answer that. Yeah, sure. So we've changed the Constitution very slightly. Because the original form of beef and lamb genetics included an element of handing over information from AgResearch. The old Constitution had an appointment by AgResearch on our board. That's now gone, and there are a few fundamental changes like that. But other than that, it's pretty much the same. 5 directors, all appointed by Beef and Lamb. Beef and Lamb will appoint the chairman. There will be an independent chair. It needn't be me, but it's independent from any other particular group. And there's a role, I think the directors are turned over every 3 years from memory. Other than that, it's pretty similar. Beef and Lamb.
Well, all of them. The major change really is that from the old hang, from the Avita days, we had research with a shareholding and interest in. And that's been divested.
There's all references to AgResearch are now taken out of the current Constitution. Okay.
Thanks, Chris. Much appreciated. Hey, listen, so this is your views time, and we've got a little time. So I think the first question is really to give Graham and the team an answer about the meat module and how you feel about the sub-indexes, the way they're broken down. So to my mind, the total sum gives you a better, more accurate carcass definition of what we're trying to produce for our clients. But it may be that the meat figure of the sub-index we've been using is sort of regressed, which doesn't make a lot of sense maybe if you've been using that quite strongly. So did you have a chat? Who would be in favour with just going with a new system, and who would like them to rethink the meat sub-index back to where it was? So,
yeah, can I just ask a question, just to get some clarification? So just with the meat and growth, that's based on the carcass weight, but the meat and so meat and growth, it's just because it's a bigger carcass, and the meat is actually because it's based on the same carcass weight.
Yeah,
is that
so
how it works?
Fleshiness or the amount of lean meat that's there for a standard carcass weight, so it's divided by carcass weight. So you're being more or less fleshy compared to that carcass weight.
So the meat now, it's reduced, but that's showing the variation between more meatier carcasses.
Yeah.
And so you still got meat and growth, but that's because it's a bigger carcass.
Yeah. So where we used to...
Can you, what Leon's asking is, can we just take out that bigger carcass out of growth and just add it back to the meat?
Yeah, and does everyone understand what Andrew's saying? You agreeing with what he's saying? Because it's hard to follow a wee bit, isn't it? But yes, what you're saying is right, Andrew. So we're looking at saying that the carcass weight that's predicted by the live weight measures, leave that in growth. But the carcass weight or the additional carcass weight that's been measured by those meat measures like ultrasound and Viascan and everything like that ends up going back into meat. Okay. So it will still be meatiness, corrected for carcass weight one at Cheryl Ann. Is that so it's still corrected for carcass weight, but that's put into the right modules, which I expect what you'll see is this revised meat will come down by a couple of 100 cents, and the revised meat would go up by a couple of 100 cents compared to what we've got today, okay, on the new stuff. So it'll be back to numbers you're more familiar with, because it just rose and fell by those numbers. Yeah. And talking around, like, you're not the only ones in the country to feel like that. We'd certainly have had that pushback to say that seems to be more intuitive, and could we do it that way? Yeah.
Well, it just seems like meat's meat and growth's growth.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. But I mean, you do understand that it's not a change. We didn't suddenly put carcass weight into growth. It's always there.
Yeah.
It's just a logical thing.
Peter.
Should I whiteboard it all, Dave, or is it a bit hard to see on the...
He was never a good netballer as a kid either. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a bit like Paddy with the rent on this one. Now that Annie's explained what the difference is, it's really the terminal sire index, the total sum that is the one that's important, and they haven't diminished the effect of having a better meat figures. It's just that some of them are now parked with growth. So by selecting as it's currently been put out, we are not actually doing what Garth was worried about, selecting for a raw-boned animal with no meat on it, because the figures have still gone in, the meat figures have still gone into solution. Yeah. So I haven't got any very strong feelings either way. If there's a simplest way to do it, just do it, and it wouldn't worry me if that's what carried on, providing the more meaty animals are still recognised in the total sum. And as I said to you when we started the day, the thing that I hope that the terminal sire index does is, if I use the highest, or sell to my customers the highest rated animals or sires, that when they go out and put it on 100 ewes, then they finish with a crop of lambs which will give them the best money in terms of daily growth at home for that crop of lambs. And if the thing does that, I don't care how you pitch it. So that's my feeling.
Yeah, so you just want it to be readily recognisable that a more meaty animal is rewarded, and your clients can see it pretty transparently.
Yeah, but I mean, the current one, if you leave it the way it is, Annie, and someone said, look, I want your best meat animals, it would still show on the index. You haven't
put growth and meat
turned
together.
it on its head, have you?
No. The value is still there, it's just in a strange place.
Yeah.
Joe?
You might have to catch that, Joe. You're a good netballer, I'm telling.
Throw it back.
Maybe? Rugby?
She played netball.
So, sorry, I'm a bit slow too. So if you've got a selection list, so if you're looking at your selection list, should the breeders be, let's say we've got terminal worth and we're going to rank everything from the top to the bottom on terminal worth, so the highest to the lowest. So you could either, two ways you could do it. One, you could select based on high terminal worth, so what Peter's saying, overall it's going to be good for a commercial farmer. Now, if you wanted to look in a little bit more detail about where, was that animal better for, is he high on maternal worth because of growth, or is he high on maternal worth because of meat? That's when you'd add those indexes beside that New Zealand terminal worth index to decide on which way that ram was going to be used. Is that right?
Yep, exactly right, Joe. So if New Zealand terminal worth, that's going to be just going up, more accurate figures are going into a little bit of change, but it's all captured in there. But this is about trying to find out if he's actually higher or getting there because of more growthy stuff or more meaty stuff. So,
more accurately.
Yeah. So it sounds like we should do this, and this would be a bit clearer. Yeah.
Cool. So it's using a combination of the indexes still.
Absolutely.
As you usually would.
Still capturing exactly that same value. Yeah.
Okay, so unless there's a further question, well, basically, Garth, you're right?
So is it going to be the same for the maternal worth as well?
Yes, Garth. So Garth's question was about, it's going to be the same for the maternal worth. So at the moment, because carcass weight predicted by meat, so if you were, Perrindale, Smedley were doing eye muscle area scanning, so it's affecting Perrindale breeders, that their New Zealand maternal worth at the moment, like if we go to the revised one as we've got it today, their growth would be increased because we've got some eye muscle area scanning in to improve their carcass weight accuracy. If we went to this, they would drop back down to about a couple of 100 cents, being back to just the carcass weight being predicted by the growth stuff, the wean weights and live weights, and they would have to add maternal worth plus meat to get the value out of those eye muscle area scanning. Yep.
Julia, behind.
Cheers. Probably overthinking. But what about people who are using maternal worth without meat? Like meat isn't one of their breeding objectives.
Mm-hmm.
And so the carcass weight estimation in their growth index is a bit skew if anyway, because there's not enough information to give them one.
Yeah. So at the moment, and you say, so I have my back to you, but I was listening. So you're saying those that are doing New Zealand maternal worth and doing no meat measures, no ultrasound, no VIASC, anything like that, or not connected to anybody doing that, they're just going to have their carcass weight predicted from the measures they're doing, which is the wean weights and the live weight 8s. So it's going to be a similar accuracy of their carcass weight as before, because they've got no new information in there to make it more accurate. So they won't see so much change, okay? Yeah, but their neighbours, somebody else doing regular New Zealand maternal worth but eye muscle area scanning, they would see a big jump in their growth if we don't change this. Okay, so I think it's probably clearer when you've got New Zealand maternal plus meat, you know, for your clients that you know you've added meat measures in there, whereas it would sneak into this maternal worth for some and not for others.
So I guess show of hands is probably the simplest way to do it, basically. Graham, sorry.
Shouldn't it just be the best science? If this is the best science and the most accurate, what the hell are we doing having a vote on it?
No, so look, you're not going to change the science. It's going to be the best science. It's about where we're reporting it and how that's intuitive to actually, you know, have the intended consequences to keep encouraging good meat selection, good meat purchasing, you know, purchasing rams on what they're actually good for. So we're not changing the science parameters, that's not changing Sheryl Ann. It's just that when we went through this was a wee surprise for us actually. We didn't really expect this until we saw it in this testing. I mean, oh, it's actually a little bit, you know, intuitive. So I think we've got to work with you. I don't think we're undoing the science by this. We're just tweaking it around the fringes.
It's not changing the engine, Russell, it's just the display module.
Yeah. We're making sure the shop front is matching, you know?
Your leader list is based on maternal worth, not maternal worth plus meat. So where you put that carcass bit, it is going to change.
Yeah, that's fair. Yes, it is. Yeah, so I mean, Graham's, I'll see if I repeat what Graham's saying down the front here, but so is it right if you've got maternal worth where you aren't putting any meat measures in, then you're being compared to somebody who is? It's having a, is it intuitive that way? I think when you know you've added meat values in there, because you've got a leader list for New Zealand maternal worth plus meat as well, it's actually clearer and it's straighter, whereas this is a little bit more surprising. That's what I mean, I'm not saying it's wrong. We talk, the maternal worth would be good, but it's a surprise for people.
Well, the old system, you could look up the leader lists. You could look up New Zealand maternal worth. And New Zealand maternal worth plus meat.
Oh, you might have to, you've got to have the thing. Ooh, we've hit someone in the head once. I'm just saying. We did health and safety. Yeah. So back to Andrew. He's a good catcher, Jackie. Yeah.
So with the leader list, you could look up New Zealand maternal worth, or you could look up New Zealand maternal worth plus meat.
Yep.
So if you took the meat out of this new growth and put it back into meat, then it would be the same as what we were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So and we haven't changed those leader lists yet, so you're not used to seeing this change yet. So I just thought while we've got this transition phase, we've got a time to adjust it before you get...
Yeah, so those who have been doing eye muscle scanning, CT scanning and selecting for meat, it would make sense for them to have that come out of growth back into meat.
Yeah.
And because that's what they have been using as part of their selection process.
Yeah. And I think it's more transparent for your clients too, to know why they're good.
Going forward, aren't we going to use the new method?
The new method? Yep. Definitely. We're not going back. We're not undoing it. You're going to the new parameters. but we're just deciding we're going to change, well, I think we're pretty sure we're going to change to just making sure that the meat goes back to meat and the growth goes back to growth.
It's displayed in the way that we used to see it.
Yeah,
the new method's being imposed, Russell. It's just the display of how it's coming across.
We've spent the money, we've made the commitment, we know the science is better, we're happy with the parameters and how they correlate. We just want to report it in an intuitive way.
Okay, so
cool.
So Annie, I'll take a vote.
Yeah, please.
A hand up.
Please.
So who's comfortable that it's displayed in meat as it was in the past, even though it's calculated through the growth side of the ledger? If you're happy with that...
who wants this?
Who wants what we were having in terms of display of meat and growth? Who, if you are comfortable with meat being showed as meat and not lifting the growth figures like we were seeing, then they could break that back out of the new meat module. And if you don't care, then you'll see lift in growth and reduction in meat sub-indexes. Okay? You're voting to see like we were first for to a change to the system we used to have, which was meat with a higher sub-index than we'd currently see under the latest output. Andrew explained it probably much better.
How about I do this?
Yeah.
So these are the two options.
The new science
yeah.
Either way.
You get the new science either way. It's just how it's displayed.
Yeah.
So the two options is what we've come to before this, what we've presented at the Roadshow, what I just did through my slides, was the carcass weight being reported through growth. That was option 1. And what you're going to vote on, who would like it to go back to this, where the carcass weight that's been predicted by meat measurements stays in meat, and the carcass weight being predicted by growth measurements stays in growth. Who would like this option here? Hands up.
Yeah.
Well, that's a pretty strong indication.
That's pretty clear. That's cool.
Thank you, guys. So that's what we're looking at doing. Not undoing the science, Russell.
Yeah.
Not going to undo that. It's much better.
So if you're taking meat measures via scan or ultrasound, they will show up stronger in the meat sub-index as we've seen in the past.
This is going to take us 2 to 3 weeks to do, okay?
Yeah, okay.
Maybe
Thanks,
longer if we hit a hurdle. And you haven't looked at your numbers, so you're not worried yet.
Hey, any other burning issues since you've sat down here today? Because we've got about 3 minutes and then we want to get on to the CPT and the next generation CPTs. So
I'd love to hear it if you've got another issue.
If you've got any other issues that you can...
Another item, not an issue.
Item.
I love that. Another item.
Julia.
Yes, Julia, thank you.
Catch.
Are you a good catcher? If you can't catch, you can't see.
Yeah. The Christchurch Ram Fair.
Yes.
The information for that is based on multi-step?
Yes.
Okay, which is consistent with RamFinder?
Yes.
So presumably the recommendation for all RAM sales right through to Ram Fair week in January is using the old multi-step system?
Yes.
Because those RAMs have been selected on that to date anyway?
Yes.
The grey area now is when breeders are looking for rams to use as stud rams, because they're going to have to be very careful to find information that's not in those catalogues regarding which animals to buy, because they want to be choosing their rams to breed from the new system.
Exactly.
You guys are going to have to communicate with each other, I guess.
They will. The other thing to remember though there, Julia, is the good animals are still the really good animals. Okay, so the changes, they're around the fringes, they're not like, it's not radical, okay, especially if we go to this option. And so the numbers aren't, you're not going to go too far wrong, but you can ask for those selection lists. You can ask your person you want to buy from, can you give me the single step and the new meat module values on those rams? We just don't want to have two versions of the truth out there too much. Some breeders are going to choose to sell on those values, and we respect the right for people to do what they want to do as long as they're transparent about it.
Exactly.
There's a transition phase, and we thought this was mitigating the, avoiding the most harm. Yeah. So that's cool. So it's till the 20th of December. It's not far. It will affect you guys selling in January. What will you do?
No, it will affect the ones who are buying to use as stud rams.
Yes, yes, that's true.
You have to talk to each other a lot.
Yes, you will.
Okay.
even the January catalogue.
Just in the interest of carrying on, Annie.
Yes, cool. What's next?
Are you going to talk about CBT and the next generation? Because I'm sure you're going to show us how to present that information regularly to breeders.
We're going to come back to wool later, will we?
If we get a chance, we will, eh?
Shut your eyes.
Yep.
It's quiet. I'll just I'll stand in front of it. Not going to do wool? And here we go, backwards. Right. Magically, sheep progeny test. Okay. Actually, who's here participating in a progeny test? Show hands. Yep, cool, couple. Good, thank you. Look, I just want to open up about the progeny test, just go back to reflect on why we're doing it. You should have probably heard this by now, I hope, but just want to reflect, we are there, or doing these progeny tests to increase the genetic merit by benchmarking. It is there to develop novel traits, so we want something new to roll out, we're using our progeny test to do that. We have had this big shift from, that whole proven ram situation to now testing more unproven rams. So they're still alive by the time that we've seen that they're quite good. Also, this use of testing them in more commercially relevant environments, so it has more cut through to your clients to say that they've actually been benchmarked in an environment that they could be farming in. And the other really thing I'm really proud of with these things is this partnership with industry. We get so much more gain as you guys get involved and actually be part of the design and delivery and even how that progeny test is recorded, etc. So really valuing all of that, making our budget going a lot farther, but also we're doing a lot better with, not just delivering you a little parcel, but you're being part of the process to bring it to industry. Having a look at what we're doing on our genotyping in the progeny test. So the rams that you put in, they're all done on a high density chip. The dual purpose dams, so where we've got those sites, we're putting them on a low density chip, and the lambs are all on low density as well. We have chosen to do parentage only in some cost saving situations, and we've discussed it very carefully with those partners when we're doing that. So getting the benefits out of participating in the progeny test, linkage, this connectedness. So you're getting that standard by using that ram at home as well. You're getting more accurate breeding values and getting better benchmarking with other flocks. But what about in a single step world with genomics? What's happening there? Well, if you've got a Romney, Coopworth, Perrindale or composite breed, you'll be or participating in the South Island Genomic Calibration Site, you'll be getting benefits through the genomics for their close relatives. We're getting the fact that you're participating in that progeny test and building up genotyping or genotypes in there, you're getting benefits in your progeny test animals. And you're getting better predictions in those young animals for late in life and hard to measure traits, so stuff that we're measuring out of the carcass or stuff that's happening when they're older ewes as a maternal traits. Now, it's just another little soundbite I'd like to put up just to remind ourselves how big we've gotten. We were testing 22 rams a year, the same rams across 5 sites. But now in 2018 with this new program, we're measuring over 200 rams. And 8 of those sites, only one of them is a research farm out at Invermay. We still really need that. It's a really good site. But we've got 7 commercial sites. And really cool is, in my mind, is that 3 of them are cadet training farms. So we're actually making some cut through to that next generation of farmers learning about genetics and how important it is. And we love having field days at those sites, and especially bringing you guys as breeders in to hear, have the interaction and stuff as well. So, because they want to be you guys more than they want to be me. So I've asked a few times about, well, what happens at each site? So I thought, this is my slide, I'm going to try and describe it. Feel free to call me up on it and ask me questions about it. I've got acronyms here. The breeder, hopefully you know them, but ask me if you're not sure. So these are the 2 hub sites. Invermay, just down in Dunedin, and Taratahi up in Masterton. The same size are mated by AI. Might be 1 or 2 differences, but generally the same. And they're measuring terminal worth and maternal traits. We've got meat measured there and feck, so worm feck. And we're also going to be measuring greenhouse gas, which is a new novel trait that's coming through. Invermay does a few more special things for us because they're on a research site. And they're measuring eczema and meat quality as well. So how do the next generation sites fit in then? Oh, I was having a wee bit of a blank click here, Dave. Don't know what I did wrong. Do you reckon you can help me out? I can go backwards, I can't go forwards. Woohoo! Oh, yes I can. Forwards I go. If I stuff it up, you have to come back, sorry. So how the next generation sites fit in. So each next generation site has 2 links to the hub, okay? Sometimes, I'm trying to be frugal with it, I'm trying to make the most out of those link sires. And with the terminal sire sites, I've got 3 here. Do you recognise these? So there's one up in Napier, which is the Progressive Meats Limited one, where about 45 terminal sire rams are there. They're measuring growth, meat, and meat quality. Basically IMF, they measured there. The South Island Genomic Calibration Site, this one's in Te Anau. Growth, meat, and meat quality. So IMF and a few other things are thrown in there because they're measuring them in the lab, tenderness and stuff. And the Southdown group got together and they also wanted to have a site, so they've got a terminal worth traits and as well as meat quality. So they're putting survival in there as well. The maternal sites, I've got 4 of them. This one here in the middle is the one that is about facial eczema, so it's in the North Island, actually in Hunterville, and we're measuring growth and facial eczema there. That's it. Not doing the other maternal worth traits, just growth and facial eczema. Smedley, this is a cadet farm where we're having the Purindales been having their progeny test there at the moment. It's, it might not be Purindales forever, but it is for now. And they are doing maternal worth traits plus meat. So we're getting eye muscle area scanning and bioscan stuff there. And we're also measuring facial eczema at that site. RIG, so the Wairarapa Romney Improvement Group is in the Wairarapa. And we're doing New Zealand maternal worth traits there. And we've got this new site we're proposing called Low Input, or Low Intervention. And it will be doing New Zealand maternal worth type traits, but we're only going to do this one if we get the funding. We've applied for some funding. We hope to find out in the middle of December that we're going to get enough to be able to run this site. And we'll be, I'll have to start getting prepared for the site before I know if I've got the money for it. So I'll be asking questions about it, trying to set up a site, asking for expression of interest. And there's already a group around here that have been part of establishing that, so they'll have priority first. And it'll probably be in the South Island. The site that we're looking at looks like it'll be in the South Island. Now in a couple of weeks I'm going to put out an expression of interest for participating in these progeny tests. And these are the ones that you'll hear about. You can participate in the hub as always, and it'll be about having already well-connected sires participating in that, might be more mature ones. If you want to, if you're a terminal sire and want to do a bit of a drag race on growth, meat and meat quality, you can join this one with natural mating up in Napier. If you are looking at doing any facial eczema stuff, I think 1 or 2 of you down here are actually trying to work on your facial eczema tolerance, you can participate in this site here. And I will be putting out an expression of interest for this one here. And again, it'll be a green light, red light if I can't go ahead in December, depending on money. We're pretty hopeful we'll get it, but I can't tell for sure. Right. How am I going for time, Neil? So this, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is it going to be rolling back to get a high input to put it into there, so there they go?
So, okay, so Jerry's question, in case you couldn't hear it on the camera, was that can a high input person also participate in a low input site? So when we talk about low input, it's no dagging, no tailing, no drenching, and just, they're going to have to be fairly robust. If you were, we will expect to be doing animal welfare contingencies around that, so you can participate, but we'll have to have contingencies about when will we intervene. But we want to do genetic selection for, socially or ethically produced meat, going down that welfare trait type style. We will definitely having the priority for those 20 breeders that have already been part of initiating that program, but we do expect that there might be others that like to join and happy to hear an expression of interest for that, and even if it's a join later, if not the first time. Yep. Any more questions on this before I move on? Okay, I just wanted to give you an idea of how much of the industry is represented by each site. It's a bit of a nicey thing, but so if I look at the terminal sires, a lot of them are the same size, so probably think about this wedged together. But based on the rams that are actually mated at that site and how many those rams represent as the flock, the home flock, these guys are around this 10 to 11% here of the industry. The South Island Genomic Calibration site although it's a wee bit closed, it's actually got some very big breeders in there, so it's around 47% of the terminal sire industry represented there. Mariah Totra, or this PML site, it's representing around 28% of the terminal sire breeders, and the South Downs is a small sliver here, so around 7% with their much smaller breeder. With the maternal, just focusing on the hub here, they're representing, the ones that are participating in the hubs are representing 20 to 15% of the industry there. The Perrindale one has got about 6% because it's a single breed, a bit like South Down. You know, they are bigger breeds, but of the maternal sort of industry. Otafiti is measuring around 15%. The rig, although it's a closed site, they've got quite a big number of flocks, or big flocks in there, so they're representing about 25%. And with the low input one, the flocks that have already shown interest in building this site or putting the arguments together, they'll be representing about 20% of the maternal size industry. So that's just a bit of a phrase about how big those sites are.
All of those, Annie, are linked back into Englamay and
Yeah. So you could argue that actually these hubs are actually having a bigger, because it's linking all of those, it's having more impact than that.
So they're going to have 2 sires in their programs.
Yeah. So participating in a next generation site and using that RAM at home, you should be coming linked to the hub, which is linking you to industry. Okay, as long as you're measuring the right traits and enough of those progeny. Cool. Next.
Just quickly, question, we used to have CPT reports and you had the size and how they performed. How do you visualise them now? I know in the system the accuracies go up, you know, accordingly, but how do you know if this animal's been performance tested in one of the sites?
It's a really good question, Leon, because I get it a lot. And I'm really happy that we'll put out reports at certain times of the year. We've got a program now, we're coming up to one right now. And then, so probably about 4 times a year and leading up to your RAM selection time. It's a little bit different for each site depending on when the traits have been measured. So I can't sort of say it's always this time. But for the hubs, I'd be expecting to do a RAM summary of the participants now so that we know before we collect data on them what they were at the start. And then as the data comes through, how they're changing. Because one's mated in 2018. We just docked the lambs the other day, so we have no measures yet. But then we could also report on the previous cohorts. So it's kind of complicated, but I think we're going to be able to do this well by putting out a bit of a table of participants and how they're going. What I want to report, though, is not where they rank in the CPT. I want to put out where they rank in the percentile bands of the industry, because it's about this ram's participated in the progeny test, but it's about where he is in industry, not just a drag race out of those couple of hundred that mated this year. So that's been working with Jackie about how to sort of sort out those percentile band rankings and stuff too. So yes, expecting routine reporting coming out of these in a real way. And with the next generation sites, we've been working with those partners of industry to say what they want, when and how, and making sure I've got a champion there to help drag that along.
Are you going to show them up on the leader list, for instance, that they have been on a test site?
Do you think we should?
Well, I think if you're looking to be connected, the best way would be to get a sire that has been tested. Yes?
Yeah, okay. So I should put it on a leader list, you think? A signal that it's been put, okay, it's on the top of the leader list, but it's also participated in a progeny test, so it's very well connected. Is that what you're trying to say? Well, that's a pretty good idea. The has to get on a leader list. The only way you get on there is having really good accuracy, so you have to be pretty well benchmarked to get there. And being, you don't just have to be, this is a pretty good point to make, I suppose, is you don't have to be in a progeny test to be connected. There are plenty of good sire referencing schemes out there that are achieving connectedness and doing a great job with that. So, and actually participating in a progeny test or having one dedicated to your community of interest is not a destination, it's a process on the way. So about getting yourself coordinated and agreeing on traits that you're going to do and getting things up to best practice. But really you want to transition on to something more affordable like a sire referencing scheme, and still knowing that you can appear on a leader list and be a pretty good sire to share. So yes, I would show off the progeny test ones, as long as it doesn't give any unintended consequences of being discrediting ones that are actually still really well referenced and providing good value.
Questions for Annie on CPT and new generation sites? Oh, well, thanks, Annie. That's great. Cool. Good. Graham, if you'd come back to the floor again and talk about genotyping and labs and prospects. Joe's still here.
Okay.
Okay, we're good? Yeah. I've just got a few slides on DNA labs and sire genotyping. As you may be aware, up until end of September this year, Beef and Lamb Genetics and previously Ovita had an exclusive license with Zoetis for genotyping. That exclusive license has now ended, so we're moved into an environment where we're in some ways lab agnostic, and we're letting the market forces come to bear. So you've got choice because there are competing labs in New Zealand at this stage. There's Zoetis and there's genomes that are available. Also, the other thing, the whole genotyping area is changing very quickly. So what is best advice today? In any moment's time, there may be other advice that is best, but that's going to go for everyone. There is, for instance, in BLG is genotyping its beef research samples through the new Neogen GeneSeq lab in just out of Brisbane that they opened earlier this year. And I understand there's another genotyping lab that's going to open in Australia next year. All these labs have sheep ovine chips that would be suitable for our evaluation. A lot of the chips are based on a standard. The International Sheep Genomic Consortium developed a chip with 15,000 markers, and a lot of these chips are based on that. So I'll talk a wee bit about that. So really, Beef and Lamb Genetics and both Zoetis and Genomes, we've been talking about a lab policy and working through criteria for a lab policy for probably the last 12 to 18 months. And in terms of what should be in the lab policy, so that you as breeders, when you send a sample into one lab or you send a sample into another lab, you don't have to go through the fine print between every lab, and you understand what you're getting. And also it helps us with our evaluation system. So guiding principles are that probably the main one that you're probably most interested in is the one down the bottom. Who pays owns is the person who pays for the genotype. The animal owner will own the genotype. So an example where you may not actually pay is when you send a animal into one of our progeny tests, and we're paid for the genotyping, but because you own the animal, you will own that genotype, okay? And that's the principle behind this lab policy. The other idea is that there's transparency, clarity of ownership, as I said, portability. So you could genotype some of your animals with one lab in your flock and some of your animals with other lab, and you would still, the genotypes would still be just as useful and could be used. Also, 1 year, for whatever reason, you may think that you're getting a better value or service from one lab, you want to change from one lab to the other, and then change back a year or two later to another lab. The way we've set this policy up, the technologies and the markers are going to be compatible, so you can do that. So it's all about allowing breeders the freedom to choose, without having to worry about, is it compatible? Can I still use those ones and those genotypes from the other lab in my evaluation? Beef and Lamb Genetics, and I'll move to the next slide. We've built a genotype database that we've had for some time, and it's a database is like a bank account, and your genotypes sit in there. We can identify who owns those genotypes. Like, for example, all the Farm IQ genotypes are sitting in there. We've got permission to use those, and if they want to use those genotypes elsewhere, they're welcome. They can use them elsewhere. It's free to store your genotypes in there, and the lab policy really applies to the genotypes that go into this database. And then the systems, we've designed a lab policy so you don't end up with this system. So if you genotype with, I'll start again, with one lab and you end up with an apple, and you genotype with another lab and you end up with a, I'm down to my, start again, an orange, that's not going to work for us. So the policy means that it doesn't matter who you genotype with, the genotypes are going to be able to be used in the NZ, New Zealand Genetic Evaluation. The only caveat of the free storage is that if you want to use your genotype somewhere else in the future, yes, they're yours, you can take them somewhere else, as BLG gets to retain a copy, because the evaluation will be dependent on that. But that's a small price to pay. We're aware of another provider in another species is charging $1 a genotype to store just to store genotypes. So that's what we're proposing. Let's get to sire genotyping now. And these are what I'm talking about is your keeper sires. And remember earlier I talked about imputation accuracy. And because the genotyping is mainly done on what is called LD, low density SNP chips. It might be a 5K chip, or now I think most labs are moving to like a 15K chip. But the evaluation requires essentially a 50K of markers to use in the evaluation, so they impute up. And I'll try and explain imputation. So you genotype on a low density, let's say a 15K chip, and some of those markers, we don't have the whole 50K. So we've got to fill in the gaps before we can use them in the evaluation. Now, we need a reference panel of animals and these need to be closely related to this animal to pick them up. So think of these as your keeper sires. If we don't have your keeper sires here, it's more of a guess, and we have an accuracy of imputation. So the reference panel is genotyping your keeper sires each year, and then we get great imputation accuracy upwards. The accuracy is that we require is a 90% accuracy. With the genotype database, we'll be able to, I think we're going to report through the labs, so you'll be able to get this information from your labs. Eventually you'll be able to go on to nProve and see which animals are genotyped and how they impute their accuracy, but at the moment that information will be through your labs. Our recommendation is to use the HD chip, which is a 600K chip that I believe is available to both labs. I know that one lab is offering it at the moment. The 50K chip is fine, but just looking to the future, at the moment the HD chip is the one that we're recommending. I've talked about evaluation requires a 50K. The one thing about sire genotyping, it actually corrects your pedigree. I'm sure you know who your keeper sires are, and there's no problems with their pedigree, but it actually is a double check on that. Maintains your reference panel, and it's useful for research. These high density genotypes are the ones that the likes of AgResearch or Genomics Aotearoa are using that's Otago University, they're using in looking for QTLs or genes for at different traits. So that's pretty much all my questions, all my things on the lab policy. We're finalising a few details of the labs on the lab policy, and we will make that publicly available on our website and to breeders, so you know what you're signing up for. And I think David or who can answer, we are making available to the labs how well your animals impute, imputation accuracy for all your genotyped animals. Yeah, that should come out very soon. Okay. Any questions?
Just clarification, Graham. The labs which Beef and Lamb Genetics has got the apples for apples agreements with, you'll have listed on the website?
And genomes, AgResearch Genomes, 2 at the moment.
Two at the
Okay,
moment.
so they are for sheep at the moment. They're the 2 labs that breeders have the option to work with.
And you'll put that on the Beef and Lamb Genetics website, the policy or the procedures that go with it?
Yeah.
Cool. Questions for Graham on genotyping or lab selection? Andrew.
Oh, here we go, no pressure.
So at the moment, both labs test on the same chip.
They have, they have their own chips, but the markers on those chips are incredibly compatible. All right, I think the chips are, I don't know, they've both got 15 or 17 or 16K chips, I'm not sure, somewhere around that. And the overlap on those chips is probably about 13, 14K. I mean, we've just come from using 5K chips with the overlap, so that it's actually, we're into a really good position actually with these new chips that are just coming through this season. Okay.
Okay, so over time, as there's better chips available, and one lab uses a better chip, is that going to make any difference?
I wouldn't think that. What do you mean by a better chip?
Or just a high density chip?
Look, like I said, the space is changing, and I'd say what we're looking at the next probably 2 years, I don't see there's a substantially difference in the chips between the 2 labs, right, at the moment. I mean, the next leap forward, it really comes to price in some ways. I mean, everyone wants a lower price, and if a lab came out with a 50K chip for under $20, we'd all be, then we'd get around this whole imputation thing. But that's not here, and that's not looking likely in the next 2 years. Yeah. So the chips that are coming out now are great. Both of them are really good chips. Yeah. So, yeah.
Any further questions for Graham?
Okay.
Oh, thanks, Graham. Bob, sorry. Garth.
Graham, there's two things with beef and lamb that concern me at the moment, and that's, am I allowed to talk about this now?
Genetics?
Yeah. One is, the first thing is, so much of your analysis is based around flocks being linked, and the way I see it, there is an awful lot of ram breeders in New Zealand who aren't linked sufficiently to be involved in what you're doing. That's the first thing. Annie, in that pie graph you said in the maternal earth there was 28% of flocks. Well, 28% to me is not very much, considering what you're pushing into the promoting ram finder and all those things. The other thing that is concerning me an awful lot is the ram breeders. I think we're getting split into levels. We're getting the elite that understand 95% what you're doing. There's another tier that might understand 75% of what you're doing, and the rest of us are just in a bit of a cloud. Now that's the ram breeders. So what does that say to the fellas out in the hills that have got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,000 ewes? And my observation is that they hardly know anything. So I think that is a big concern to beef and lamb as well, because you're taking your 60 cents per lamb from those guys as well. You know what I mean? That is a big concern to me. That I've been involved with a red meat profit partnership group regarding bringing mean kill date forward. We had those fellas in the wool shed the other day. Their knowledge of SIL, what beef and lamb was doing, is basically nil. A wee bit better than nil. So that's my comment.
I know Chris will answer, but your first one, look, on the maternals, as you see, I think in New Zealand maternal worth, I think there's about 200 flocks, aren't there? What's that, just over 200? Yep. So of the 400 flocks or so, there's about 200 flocks, are connected. But then if you look at the 200 flocks that are connected for New Zealand maternal worth, they're probably selling 85% of the rams out there. Terminals is not such a great. There is a lot of rams being sold out there that aren't connected or aren't even on our valuation, right, in the terminal side. And that's a challenge for us to get, more people using the valuation and getting connected up. And that's where the next generation flocks have helped drive that, but it's still, totally on board. I think just been in Australia at LambX, and they've only got 38% of their flocks getting connected or even on the evaluation. And of that 38%, only a smaller number are connected. So New Zealand, we're in it's something we're striving to always work for. In terms of communication of information, to breeders and to farmers, I could hide behind the fact that of that 60 odd cents that everyone pays in levies, in terms of the extension space and knowledge transfer that you're talking about to upskill everyone in that space, one, RMPP got 66 million over 7 years to work in that space, and we've had some engagement with them, and there is some benefit from RMPP. Beef and lamb have feet on the street that work in that space, and BLG's number one objective is to provide the best information infrastructure, providing you with the best data to make decisions. Next step is we have got in terms of driving adoption, our goal is, and as you saw in nProve, there was a little logo in the middle. That little logo was RMPP, and we're getting some funding from RMPP because the whole idea of nProve is to make it easier for you to understand what's going on in your own flock. And the next phase of RMPP are putting money in is to make our tools, or a tool, much more intuitive for commercial farmers in terms of genetics, because our survey of our current tools, I think most people gave us a 2 out of 10 on where we're at, and that's why we're developing nProve. We've got a plan to work with rural consultants, vets, rural accountants, and with nProve so they can actually understand enough to give people advice on that. So we're just 6 people in beef and lamb genetics who's doing that. That's my...
Just as an aside.
All good comments.
They're very accurate comments. The last time we looked at, before I got kicked off the board anyway, we had about 60% of New Zealand ram flocks producing about 82% of the rams that could benchmark in some degree or another. And there's fairly strong evidence that a lot of those guys that are performance recording, there's a second tier of ram breeders that take their stuff off them. So it's having quite a big influence on the total output. And if you looked at New Zealand trends in sheep production, there's a reason why we've been able to make the gains we have. About 48% of that in the last 20 years has been because of improved genetics. So I don't think we're not making an impact, but I'm with you that there's a lot more education. And I've always been fairly blunt that as a stud breeder myself, it's my job to be up to speed with the industry and its techniques and its performance recording. That's my career. So it's actually our role to keep up to speed. So Chris, would you like to finish up, sir? I know we've always been asked to do more about getting commercial clients educated, and we've always never had the budget to do that sort of stuff. Yeah, mate.
Thanks, Leon, and good discussion today. I'll just make 2 comments. Firstly, on the meat module, we've just been around the North Island and they've seen all the new figures, and we've had a lot more flack from them. I think when you guys see the new figures, I think you'll be glad you've made the decision today. That's point 1. Point two, to your point, I totally agree with you. Our big job is how the hell we can get commercial farmers to take up what is essentially people in this room really, really good genetics, and we're trying really hard. As Graham said, we're only 6 people, but we do have $350,000 from Red Meat Profit Partnership, and the whole intent of that is to spend that money reaching around you guys, with your help, to commercial farmers. So, totally agree with both your points. We're trying our damnedest, but we've got a wee way to go. So look, Leon, thank you for chairing it. It was great. And we're nearly on time, so it's even better still. And thanks to management for all the great presentations I gave, and in particular, thank you all for coming. I hope you'll continue to support us. We're doing some great things, and just watch the space. So safe travels on your way home, and all the best. Thank you.